everyone. This week we're going to be taking a look at a PC that I bought. This one was pretty far away, packed up the cat, and did about an hour ride. Didn't really have a ton of information on it, but it looked kind of interesting. I actually didn't even know it was going to have a water cooler, but it does seem to have a 120 millimeter water cooler. Luckily it does turn on, so that's a good start. Takes a little while to boot up. I'm just going through the boot process here just to see if I can actually get it to turn on. Luckily, she did chase after me to let me know that the password was in fact password, so I could go ahead and log in and see what was on the computer. Doesn't really matter, I always do a fresh install anyways, but it's good to be able to at least check it out and make sure that it does work, especially if someone wasn't going to completely refurbish this. So it does actually turn on, that's nice. It's set up a little bit weird. We'll see. I'm going to go through, we'll take it all apart. I'm just going to check here, see how much RAM is in it, because I really didn't get any information at all. Was supposed to have a GTX 980. It actually has a 1080, which is pretty exciting, a lot better card. And then it looks like the OS is actually installed onto one of the hard drives. It has a solid state drive, but they went ahead and installed it on a hard drive, so lost a lot of performance there with just a simple click of a button, putting it on the wrong spot. Looks like someone actually spent a lot of money to build this. There are two 2 terabyte hard drives as well as a solid state drive. And then as far as the back of the computer, it looks like they tried to fill every single I/O slot they possibly could. So we'll get it disassembled here. There's absolutely everything. It's got some crazy lights that I think didn't really work too well, but it's there. And we'll just go ahead and get it torn down and get the dust cleaned up. With having no information, the thing that got me excited about this computer was that it actually had a sound card in addition to a graphics card. Not a lot of people do, so it looked like they actually spent some time. Here's our lovely GTX 1080. Really wasn't in too bad a shape. Ended up cleaning it up, doing new thermal paste. Then we're just going to remove piece by piece. It's actually a 2-part sound card. Pretty nice one. I ended up not using it in the build because most users are just going to use HDMI for sound anyways, but it is nice to see that that was in there. And then for some reason we have an extra Ethernet port, even though the motherboard does have functional Ethernet. And then that last part is just a switch for the blue neon up top. I ended up not using that either, as it's kind of outdated right now. Better off to just go with LEDs. The cable management isn't terrible. It's not really great, but it's not terrible. They put on those white extensions, which are just an aesthetic choice. I don't really like them, so I usually go without them just to get the shortest path to power. I was really excited to see that it had a 1200 watt power supply. Super excited to use that when I put it into a new case. I got it all installed, and then within an hour of testing it, the power supply completely died. So I ended up having to go with a brand new unit. Safer anyways. I didn't go with the 1200 because that's quite a bit overkill, but I did run the self-test on that one. It did unfortunately fail and have to be replaced, so kind of a disappointment there. And then we have a bit of a strange mount here, but we have 2 screws holding in the AIO to the fan, and then they hold the fan up to the case, so it's pulling the air in. You're getting nice fresh air in, and then it runs through the radiator, but then you're actually putting hot air into the case. I typically like to mount these on top so that the fresh air comes in, goes out the radiator, and then the hot air is exiting the case instead of blowing on the rest of the components. It's not that it didn't work this way, it obviously worked for them, but it's just a little bit better to have cool air on everything. The other nice surprise was this was supposed to be an i7 6700, but it is actually the K variant, so there is a little bit of overclocking potential there, especially with the water cooling. I did go ahead and overclock it later on. It didn't really get too crazy high of an overclock, so I ended up not because I was going to sell it. Just wanted to make sure that it was working properly and wasn't going to have any issues in the future. But if someone did want to overclock it, there is the potential there for it. This took quite a bit of time to disassemble just because the wires were so tangled together. A lot of it was actually just separating wires, seeing where they were supposed to go, and then getting the components separated out so they could each be cleaned. It wasn't too gross, it was just pretty dusty. Definitely has seen quite a bit of use over the years. I'm going to go ahead and swap out the case as I think this case isn't that nice. I did end up using it for another build, more of a budget build setup, but I got a brand new case because this is a pretty decent setup to use. Here's the real reason for opening up the graphics card. The thermal paste was pretty dry. It wasn't the worst I've seen, but definitely worth replacing just to make sure this card has a nice long life. It was a bit dusty, but overall it's in really good condition. I see no reason that this card shouldn't go on working great for a nice long time now. You can definitely tell it wasn't used for mining. There's no heat spots. Nothing looks burned up. None of the caps look like they were leaking, so just in really good shape overall. As always, I try to use MX4 thermal paste, an unspecified amount, that weird camera glitch there, but go ahead and get a nice quality thermal paste on there. It's worth spending the extra few dollars to make sure you're not putting on junk. Then we'll get this back together and be all set. So now that the radiator's had some time to dry, there's still some stuff stuck in it. This probably won't make a difference, but it will at least look better. I'm not really sure what's in there, so just use a toothpick because the toothpick will break before the metal if it's too much pressure applied. Don't want to damage the radiator, just want to clean it out. Then we'll just wipe off the water pump, make sure that's looking good, and get it ready for installation. So after blowing off the motherboard, we'll do some Tech Yes City inspired spray-on cleaner. This will just coat the motherboard a little bit and just get any residual dust and grime off. If there's any bit of moisture on there, we'll also replace that. Can't find exactly what he uses in Australia or Japan now, but we do have WD-40 electronic contact cleaner. Seems to do the job quite well. Been spraying it into the RAM slots as well as PCI slots just to make sure there's no dust in there where you can't reach a brush or anything. Make sure everything's nice and clean. So because I didn't use the case this came with, I won't show that in this video. It was over an hour to clean it, so we'll just go ahead and unbox the fans and LEDs that we're going to use in the brand new case. Just a nice little kit, came from Amazon, pretty cheap, comes with 2 LED strips, 4 fans. You want to make sure that they are all plugged in order and just follow the instructions. It's pretty easy plug and play, and then a little remote control for it. I don't believe software control would work too great on these, but for this type of older motherboard that doesn't support that, it's a perfect kit. Nice, cheap, and easy install. I didn't record installing it, just putting things back in the way that they came out into a much better case. Just looks a lot better, and the only part people really care about is the RGBs anyways, but there they are, all shiny and nice. Everything works well, tested it with a few games, runs great. Hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for watching.